I've been lucky enough to have him as a frequent guest on this show over the years and decades. He has a brand new record coming out called The Elephants of Mars, which will come out on April 8th. Amazingly, his 19th studio record in a career that is now over 35 years long. The great Joe Satriani joins me live right now. Satch, how are you, man?
I'm very good. Eddie, how you doing?
Good. When I read those stats, 35 plus years, 19 studio records, I see you shaking your head because we're doing this on Zoom. Does it even surprise you that it's gone this long?
Yeah, it's really unbelievable. I mean, time just flies by, and every record I work on is some sort of crazy, just cathartic experience. And when it's over, somehow I get started on the next crazy cathartic experience. And then, boy, yeah, like you said, all of a sudden, 35 years later, 19 albums, I'm still having fun.
And that's important. Are you a guy, Joe, that ever goes back and listens to your old records and thinks about stuff you've done in the past? Or are you like a tunnel vision guy? It's always the next, always what am I going to do? This is put to bed, on to the next.
Oh, it's a little bit of both. I think, like most artists, it's kind of painful to listen to your past work because like all the takes that you left off, all the other mixes that didn't make it to the album, or the arrangements of the songs that for some reason you thought weren't the best ones, and then maybe you change your mind. So we have memories. You take one song like Sahara, and I've got memories of when it was a vocal song and when I had different melodies and a different solo, and so it takes years, I think, to get over that. And then maybe one day, you're driving down the highway and the song comes on the radio and you can hear it like a normal person. But yeah, there's no way that I'm a normal person. So maybe that'll never happen. But I have to go back though. Here's the thing, 35 years, when we get ready to go out on tour and, fans are requesting some song from the first, second, third album, I got to go back and listen to it and remind myself, like, what was I thinking? And, is there a better way to play that part? And, because I'm a better player now, I have more experience. But when you make the records, it's your first attempt at playing the material, and you're really a novice at it. You're totally green at trying to accomplish it. And you stop as soon as you get it right. Everyone says, okay, you got it. Let's move on to the next part. So there's, very little experience behind the album recordings. So it's interesting how you go back and you listen to that and you hear your own naivete.
You bring up something that's really interesting that I never thought about. You as the creator of this music would hear it in a really different way than me as the fan and the listener, because I'm only hearing the one version you're giving me. I'm hearing that final take, whereas Sahara or any of these other songs could have had a 20-year gestation period, or they could have been, 15 different takes on a solo or something. And I don't know that ever existed. So for you as the artist, you're just thinking of, should I have gone back to the version that was on the demo? Or was that the right thing? That's got to be agonizing, I would think, after a while.
It is. And you know what? I have no business listening to that stuff and making any judgment. It doesn't help in any way when it comes to performing or moving forward, writing new material. You really do have to do it and understand the state of being an artist of any kind, where you create something for people to enjoy. But then you've got to move on. You have to leave it because you really can't. Well, a couple of things. You can't change it. Number two, you can't decide what people are going to like and not like. And number three, you can't decide what people are going to like about something they might like. And so you got to throw your hands up and say, okay, what is my job again? Oh, that's right. My job is to make this stuff, not critique it or to explain it. It's really important. This fresh is on my mind because in the other room, I'm busy trying to get 30 canvases ready And I could work on those canvases for another 2 years. And, I don't know if they'd get any better, but I'd just be sitting there, messing around with them. So it's good to have a deadline where somebody says, no, pack it. If you got 10 done, put them in a box, FedEx them right away. And so you have to make that decision that you're finished, and someone's either going to like it or they're not. That's
well. We're going to talk. I want to talk about your artwork here in a second, but let's talk a little bit about the record that's coming, because as I mentioned, it is your 19th, coming April 8th. The Elephants of Mars. Sahara is out now. Video directed by your son Zizi, who's done some great video work with you. Tell me about, well, you had mentioned something interesting. Now, this lead track that we're hearing from this record, you said originally started as a song with vocal on it that you wanted to have a singer on? Or were you going to sing on it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a convoluted story. So when Shapeshifting came out and we started to, get into that routine of postponing the tour like so many other bands, I started to think that, well, if we're going to come out 6 months later on tour, maybe we should make recordings with this new band I have and make those recordings like a supplement set of albums to Shapeshifting. And so I started talking to the guys, and one of the new guys in the group, a keyboard player, guitar player, singer, songwriter, rock star from Australia. His name is Ray Thistlethwaite, and he's got an amazing voice. And I thought, what it would be a cool idea to maybe have a vocal album and an instrumental album to highlight all the things that, that Kenny Aronoff, Brian Beller, and Ray can do. So we started down that road, and I wrote this song in a darker moment, but I was very enthusiastic about this dark mood I was in, about this guy who was really lost inside and outside and in the world. And he was in a kind of a spiritual desert, and, walking the streets of New York City, it's all in tatters, no one's around. And he's kind of like screaming out, stream of consciousness. And anyway, I write these lyrics. I think, I'm not really good at writing lyrics, first of all. So I think I probably overdid it. And when I sent it to everybody liked the song, but I think Ray was scratching his head going, how do you sing those lyrics, So the song got kind of put on hold as we were working on some of the others. And then the pandemic dragged on, and we suddenly realized, wow, we're not going out 3 months later, 6 months later, maybe not even 9 months later. And I thought, okay, the next time I put out music, people are probably going to think, okay, what's next? Shapeshifting was before we want a new album. And so I thought, okay, let me look at these two albums and make a decision. And my decision was, I'm just going to do a new instrumental album that will, I'll force myself to do something better than ever before. I'll just remove all parameters and barriers, and I'll just try to do something at a higher standard for myself, And part of that was moving all those vocal songs aside. So long story short, a couple of months into it, my producer, Eric, says, I think you should do that song Sahara, but I think you need to maybe think about it as an instrumental. And that got me started down that road. So I never got like a demo with Ray singing on it. But in my mind, I still have this character, this sort of John Lennon, Jared Leto cinematic figure, this little movie in my head about this guy. And that kind of guided me through making the instrumental, because I needed to capture the attitude of the energy that he had, this negative energy, this anxiety that he had as he's walking through these lonely streets and he's crying out, I get deep into these songs, as you can tell, but you're used to me explaining these things.
Well, yeah, but what's interesting about what you're telling me is, I had George Lynch on this show a month or so ago, and George just put out his first ever instrumental guitar record, believe it or not. And he was telling me a story about that was originally going to be a regular record with vocals, and he wrote lyrics and he sent them to the singer, and the singer was like, there's nowhere to do, like, I don't know how to tackle this. And then when the singer kind of passed on it and said, I don't know what to do, like how to work this, George was like, maybe it's time to make this an instrumental record, which he did. But he told me something interesting. He said, I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to actually write from the standpoint of it actually being instrumental, because it's a different headspace to write knowing it's going to stay without lyrics. The first record he made was intended to be lyrics. Now, you're the one guy that has mastered the instrumental guitar record, and I've said this before, you're one of the few that have had crossover commercial success doing it. So there really are differences in approach when you're writing for that space for lyrics or that phrasing for lyrics, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's two things to consider. Number one is that in the absence of words, you can't, if the song's, the first lyric is, strawberry shortcake all over my face, all you have to do is say that and it creates an image. I'm not sure why I just said that phrase, but
maybe that's your next record, Joe.
Yes. But it's such an image, or you say like my dog's on fire, it's instantly you're informing your audience what it's all about. Now, imagine if you just, play that on a guitar, it means nothing. No one will ever think strawberry shortcake or your dog's on fire. So what is it that you have to do with your notes? You have a note, you sound, and you have timing. So how are you going to get that to work? We were talking about Sahara before. My idea with that was, well, I don't have the words to use to tell people the story about how this guy feels. But if he does feel anxious and he does feel lost, then I have to make sure the melody isn't smooth. It has to be in the offbeats and syncopated with the rhythm. And it has to be weaving in and out of the bass and the 12 strings, because it's searching. Now that's how I like using the psychology of music. That's how I'm making a statement without lyrics. Now, the other thing that's so important, which is you cannot discount the talent that a lead singer songwriter has. They have this innate ability to clear the deck when a guitar player brings them a song and say, this is the space where I can most successfully communicate to the audience with my voice. And I've seen, Sammy Hagar do this so many times when I brought him some funny songs, and he'll look at me like, really? Like, you think that's where the melody is? And he'll go, no, the melody should be here. And I'll be really surprised, but he'll be right. And you'll know it when you're on stage somewhere and he starts singing and everybody in the audience just falls right into that space. And you go, he's got this extra sensitivity because of his experience, standing in front of the band, holding the mic and starting to give a message. That is a whole other technique that's way different from playing your guitar, playing a melody on your guitar.
The Elephants of Mars is the new album from Joe Satriani. Again, it's coming out April 8th, and Sahara is the single. Time permitting, we'll let you hear it before the end of the show as well. If you haven't checked it out already, there's also a video online. Joe, overall, in making this record, so many artists I'm talking to now, especially this year, are telling me about their pandemic stories and how their records were impacted by the pandemic, whether they were making them with everybody in different locations, something they've never done before, over Zoom, producers over Zoom. I've heard all kinds of crazy things. Your old friend Steve Vai was on with me a couple weeks ago telling me how he totally rethought how he was going to make this record he has coming out because of the pandemic. How did the pandemic and making this record, I'm assuming much of it was done during it, how did that all work out for you?
Yeah, we like everybody else, had to do a little sidestep with what we were usually doing. The previous two albums, well, let's say most of the time, 99.9% of the time, I really love walking into a great studio with great musicians, with the clock ticking and a date on the calendar that says you have to be done by this date. You know, it's just, it helps with the energy, and you capture this extra vibe that you can't get when you're just sitting at home, you know, in the privacy of your own studio. However, there is that negative of the fact that you have to compromise every once in a while, you know, probably every day, because you might only have a band for 8 days or 14 days, and you realize I got to get 2 songs today, and we have to start the other one, you know, after dinner before everyone goes home. Otherwise, we won't get all the tracks done. So at some point, you're going to say that's good enough. And if you're capturing a lot of live playing, like the way I like to do it, you have to say, well, I didn't plan on doing that. I was really hoping to do this, but that I guess we'll have to do, you know. So many records are made that way, and it can be fun. But I suppose after 18 records, you go like, you know, when do I get to just like take my time, you know? And so here I was thinking, if I'm going to push myself to write better, record better, arrange better, come up with a better sound, then I'm going to figure out a way to get me and the rest of my team on a new wavelength, which is just don't commit anything until you think it's your best performance, your best arrangements on your best songs. And once I got that going, I thought, this is great. And the other thing that was interesting is that I didn't have to perform for anybody. And I know that sounds funny, but, you know, I know me. And basically, if I'm in front of 100,000 people, 100 people, or one person in a room, I'm going to perform for them. I can't help it. I can't help but feel either, let's say, embarrassed to show my true feelings in front of the engineer or the assistant or whatever. And if I'm trying to play like a really sad song, or maybe it's a really difficult song to perform and I'm afraid of making mistakes, so I don't push myself to play even crazier. But when you're alone and by yourself, you realize, oh, I've only got me to impress now. So, you know, and I'm the most difficult guy to impress, but there's no fear of failure when you're by yourself. And this changed the way I performed. And I was pretty open with the other guys, just letting them know, like, hey, don't send me anything until you think it is the best, you know, that you can do and that you want to have on this record. Not like what we did, you know, years ago when you knew you only had, you know, an hour and a half, let's say, to do this part or that part. So this changed the way everybody not only played, but also what they offered up to me. And they would send things to me saying, what do you think of this? You know, and we were just sort of, Eric and I, taking in all the stuff that was being recorded, Australia, San Francisco, the LA area. And we were able to evaluate it in a more creative way because there was no schedule and everyone was free to just sort of let their imaginations go, you know. And I really like that. I just think it made that the whole project, The Elephants of Mars, became a much better album than I'd been able to do before because a lot of those restrictions were lifted.
Joe, one more thing I want to ask you about guitar playing. You know, talking to Steve a week or two ago, he was telling me about issues he had with his shoulder, and it had him, they actually played a song unlike, in a way he'd never had played before because of the injury he had. I was out with Deep Purple, a band I know you were in for a brief time, and Steve Morse, who's still playing with them, was wrapping his hands and showing me how he has to almost reinvent the way he plays because he's got some issues with his wrist and his fingers. I mentioned at the top of the interview, you've been doing this over 35 years now. Any physical ailments as you're getting older? Anything that you're feeling, creaks, issues, injuries that have impacted your playing?
I think over the years, I've experienced quite a few things that have all turned out to be based on tension. Luckily, you know, I've never broken any bones or anything like that and had to deal with, structural issues. And, you know, by the way, Steve's new record is totally insane.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't believe he's got any injury going. He sent that to me, before it came out, and because we traded albums and we were commenting on exactly what you've just asked us. So, about injuries and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's just crazy that Steve can just keep getting better, even though he's got these things he's got to deal with. But that's Steve, he can always deal with whatever gets thrown at him. The only issues I've had have been the typical thing. It's really funny. When I was really young and I could take advantage of a growing body, teenage body. Every day is a new day, new body cells. Everything's working fantastically, but you're so nervous and you're so concerned about the social situation when you're playing music that you get tense and you can't really show people what you know, and you're still trying to learn about music. And then I thought, well, by the time I got to my 30s and 40s, I hit a stride where I was comfortable with the world, body had sort of settled. But then as I got older, I realized I started working more, and the older body saying, oh, hold off a little bit. Can you just take a break? Like, instead of 9 hours a day, how about 7, that kind of thing. And I started to get some issues related to just being really tight, and I didn't know. So there was right around Shockwave Supernova, I had a thing with my little finger, and I thought, for a second, I'd wake up like in a South American hotel room on tour, and I wouldn't be able to move my finger in the morning, and I think, is there going to be a show tonight? But it would somehow, I'd find myself on stage playing just fine at the end of the night. Turned out though, it was just getting really tight. And so what I've learned now as an elder statesman of the electric guitar is to learn how to take it easy and, to listen to the body when it tries to tell you to ease up a little bit, to stretch, to change the way you practice, use your head more, there's more musicianship that you can accomplish by using your whole being rather than just concentrating on your, in my case, on my left-hand fingers. So I've been lucky that way, but, all the players, that, like you mentioned, Steve Morse, I mean, brilliant musician. And it really proves that the power of the mind and that personality can overcome these obstacles, because Steve's still playing great. Both of them, both Steves are just remarkable.
Did Vi share with you? He told it to me on the air. Did he share with you how he hurt himself?
Well, he wasn't really quite sure about it. The last time we spoke, he was, as well as his doctors, I think, were a bit mystified as to, why the shoulder is kind of falling apart. But
the last injury, Joe, was because, and he told me this story on the air, this just a week or so ago. He was making a pizza. He has an outside pizza oven, and he was crafting the pizza and pushing it into the stone oven, and the motion popped his shoulder. I said, that's a man that's committed to his pizza right there. I've got a lot of respect for that. So yeah, you never know. Man. It's like, I'm sure there was something building up to that point, and the pizza was just the final straw. But I find it, I found it funny that a guy that's had a guitar slung around his shoulder pretty much most of his life, it was flipping a pizza that did the final, put him in the final, gave him the final problem. So
I know. Well, I think that's a lesson for all guitar players. Just order. They deliver, by the way.
We have a sponsor, DoorDash. Use them. Exactly. Hey, Joe, if you can hold for a second through a break, when we come back, I want to spend a few minutes talking with you about your artwork. And you're doing a gallery, actually, which is in New Jersey, like 20 minutes from where I live. So if I'm in town, I'm going to come see you and come see your art. The place you're going and the mall you're going to be in, I'm in often. So we'll talk a little bit about Joe's art and a gallery showing that he has coming up in New Jersey. If you could hold through a quick break, Joe, we'll continue with you right after this. Coming back with more with Joe Satriani right after this on Trunk Nation on Volume. 4 minutes here with Joe Satriani, and then we're going to hear the track Sahara from his upcoming new record. Joe is also an artist that paints, musical artist, and also paints. And Joe has an appearance at Wentworth Galleries in the Short Hills Mall, Short Hills, New Jersey, and that is coming up very soon. As a matter of fact, you can go see Joe and go see his art when he appears at the event. I know Christian, who is the guy at Wentworth Gallery, actually just saw him a few days ago because he was out with Brian Wheat from Tesla, who does art through this group. Rick Allen of Def Leppard, he was with Rick. Rick does stuff through Wentworth Galleries as well. You can see Joe at the Wentworth Gallery in the Short Hills Mall in New Jersey, March 12th. Joe will be there from 5 to 8 p.m. Joe, I was not even aware that you were this into painting. How long have you been doing it? And when did this alliance with Wentworth and going out and doing gallery showings begin?
Oh, all my life, I've been drawing. My two older sisters are professional artists. And so as I was a kid, there was always art materials around. And I think they got a kick out of me trying to draw my gory, crazy sci-fi faces, which I started when I was really young. And then I married an artist, and then my son turned out to get a degree in art as well. So I've been surrounded by these people with art degrees, and they've really helped me through the years develop my sketching and drawing into computer art, to turn it into guitar strap art, posters, t-shirts, pics. And then eventually, maybe about 8 years ago, I asked my wife to teach me the whole thing about canvases and paints and brushes and palette knives and all that kind of stuff, which I'd really avoided, basically to keep my calluses clean. But I just really wanted to move into the canvas thing. And that's been really a lot of fun. And then I get associated with the guys at Scene 4 Art Collective in LA, and they're shooting me, in the dark, time elapse, performing on my guitar, wearing a glove with LED lights on it. And Corey and Ravi at Scene 4, they create these beautiful artworks based on these manipulated photographs. And one day that when they're shooting, I mentioned to them that, I also, paint these crazy looking figures. And they got real excited about it. And we decided to start doing things together, start to create some mixed media pieces. And then they introduced me to Christian, who Christian O'Mahony, who owns the Wentworth Gallery chain. And from there, Christian really encouraged me to start painting lots of different subjects, lots of different sizes. And so here I am. They've got over 100 pieces now. And as I mentioned before, I'm supposed to deliver about 30 in the next 2 weeks, I guess, if I get there. And then I'm really looking forward to that Short Hills experience on the 12th. We did one in Miami about 2 weeks ago. And man, I didn't realize how much I missed just hanging out with fans and talking to them about music and art, because, we've all been sort of secluded for so long, but what a wonderful experience. So I'm looking forward to the trip to New Jersey to once again, show some new artwork. There's canvases, there's actual guitars I did. That's a whole other story. And it's been really a great opportunity for me to be able to, spread my wings artistically and do some more work. And I really love it. I really do enjoy it.
For people that are, of course, this being SiriusXM, we got people listening all over the U.S. and Canada. It's national, so there's only a percentage that's going to be able to come to New Jersey and see you. But is this something you want to do more of? Are you going to add galleries? And for folks that can't get to the galleries, is there a central website or someplace they should go that maybe want to see your paintings and possibly buy one online?
Oh, yeah, you can do that. If you just go to wentworthgallery.com, you'll get there and you'll see all the work that is up for sale, even the stuff that's already gone, but at least you get a chance to see the kind of work that I've been doing. And yeah, all the stuff, Brian Wheat and Rick Allen, Paul Stanley, all the way to Peter Max. I mean, the Wentworth Gallery's got some amazing stuff and great artists all the time. It's really a trip. I was telling somebody the other day, it's almost like when we were at the Hard Rock, the Seminole Hard Rock, where that was the first showing, and I'm walking through the lobby and I see the gallery and I see my paintings up on the wall. It was just like hearing one of your songs on the radio for the first time. It's just so surreal to think that something that came from deep inside, that you're still trying to figure out what it's all about, you somehow created it in reality, and now all of a sudden it's out there in the world. It's that for me, it's that exciting. So I it's like a kid in a candy store, just really taking it all in.
So WentworthGallery.com, if you want to see the stuff online. I'm looking at some prints now. Purple Species and Friends, a very Satriani alien party. That's the title of some of these paintings. And again, if you happen to be in New Jersey, and if I'm in town, I'm definitely going to come by Short Hills Mall. It's a real great mall to begin with, and then Wentworth Gallery is in there, and you can see Joe 5 to 8 p.m. on March 12th for his next gallery opening. Joe, going back to music here for a second, what's the touring plan coming up for the record once it comes out? What do you got lined up?
I know that, day by day right now, we're still trying to figure out exactly what's happening with our European tour that is, starts in the spring and which is just about upon us into the early summer. We've had this funny period where we've been trying to get this spring tour, this sort of late winter, early spring tour off the ground, but it always seems to be when there's some kind of a surge. And we've missed the summer, but we've got our fall in the U.S. that's just about to get announced. So, at minimum, we will be hitting the U.S., North America for 9 weeks in the fall. And everybody's set up for that. As you mentioned before, the Elephants of Mars comes out April 8th. We've got a new video to shoot, actually, the title track, in about 2 weeks. I'll be down in LA with the guys and ZZ directing again. So we're looking forward to making a crazy video for that song. And then we got another single coming out by the end of the week, a song called Faceless.
And with your friend Steve Vai with a great new record, you with a great new record, has there been talk of doing a G3 again?
We really, that came up again because we were doing one of these Zoom calls, Steve, myself, and Eric Johnson, and we thought it might be a cool thing to sort of do an anniversary G3 tour, maybe in 23. 22, it's funny, this year is really the receptacle, of everybody's postponed tours, from 20 and 21. So the competition for venues is insane. It's just a mad scramble. I don't know how the agents handle the insanity of all the musicians saying, please let me, come to Cincinnati, on this Wednesday or whatever it is they're trying to do. And it's here and it's in Europe as well. So we're trying to sort it out, and it's really day by day. I'm on the phone with the guys all the time trying to figure out if it's really going to happen. But I would love to do another G3. We were always cultivating the next one. Once we finish at G3, we're trying to plan it out. And I know Steve's into it, and I want to see him play his new album live. So I got to figure out how he does half that stuff. Like everybody else.
And the last thing, and I'll let you go on this, and you mentioned him a little while ago, our mutual buddy, Sammy Hagar, Chickenfoot. I still feel there's some unfinished business there. I think you do as well, right? I
think so. I think he's got a residency going right now in Vegas. I think that's where he is. I think I believe the last time that I was in the worst mood about Chickenfoot, I was at your studio, and you were surprised, I think, when I had said that I'd be into working with other people because I'd kind of thrown my hands up in the air with those guys. And after that, I kind of backed off bugging them because I thought I just don't want to be that guy. That's the guy that's always saying, "Come on, guys, let's get the group back together." So. Right. I still think that it has to happen from the other side there because they're so busy. Like Chad right now is about to launch, a worldwide tour with the Chili Peppers and a new album. So, the reality is that he won't really have time for quite a while. So,
Right.
so it's not my place anymore to be the guy bugging him about it. But, you know, Sam and I talk every week, and it's all cool. It's all, you know, everyone's on good terms. It's just a question of how do we fit it in to what's, you know, this crazy world we live in.
Yeah, and of course your own world with a record coming out and a tour, and of course the art stuff and some gallery things. So everybody's busy, which is a good thing, because for a year and a half, everybody talked about not being busy and sitting around, and we need to go. So it's good to have all this stuff happening. It's great to visit with you as always, Joe. I appreciate the time, and I'm definitely going to try to come see you at Wentworth again. If I'm in town, I'll drop by and say hello. And everybody, if you're in New Jersey, go see Joe at Wentworth Galleries. Check out his art. Again, Short Hills Mall, Wentworth Gallery, March 12th, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And check out the new record, The Elephants of Mars, coming out on April 8th. I know there's pre-orders going on. There's vinyl. There's a CD version that CD is still my favorite format. I know that there's a version coming with actually some of your art in it, right? Where there's cards that you painted that are in there.
Yes, yeah. Our art director, Todd Galapo from Meat and Potatoes, was able to put together some of my strange alien writing and work it into these cards that represent each of the songs. So, yeah, the CD package is pretty trippy. And, of course, the vinyl, the colored vinyl is really beautiful.
Yeah, and a special version of the colored vinyl I see available at Guitar Center, a special version for them in you know, sucking right up to the guitar sellers, aren't you, Joe?
Why not?
Makes sense, right? All right, Betty. Thank you so much for the time. It's great to talk to you. We're going to let everybody hear the lead single from the new record, Sahara, right now as we let you go. And hopefully I'll see you in Jersey next month.
Oh, I really hope so. You should definitely come down, all right? Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Trunk Nation.
See you, Joe. Thank you so much. Here is Sahara from Joe Satriani. We'll be back with more.